Hey everyone, welcome to My Body Talk Show. I am Cilia. If you're a newbie, welcome to My Body Talk Show, and if you're a regular, welcome back. The tone of this episode is very different to what we normally talk about, but it's definitely something that I believe should be spoken more about because it would help a lot of women out there, and the topic is domestic violence. So keep watching. Welcome, Anna. Welcome to My Body Talk Show. How are you?
I'm fine. Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. You're nervous?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
It's okay. So before we start the episode, introduce yourself to the audience.
My name's Ana Lopez. I am a asylum seeker, literally from Colombia. I've been living here for a few years, and at the moment I'm aspiring to be a prison officer. Wow. But I'm a sales clerk at the moment. But aspiring to be a prison officer at the moment.
Well, that's a big change.
Yeah, it's massive.
What made you want to be?
Where with my sort of in the past with my relationship with men and whatnot and what have you, I sort of, and not with dealing with these type of men as well, not just family wise but in relationship wise. I really do believe in the rehabilitation, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be able to be a part of someone's life and the change that they present in their life. I want to basically want to do that. Yeah, make a difference in the community. And obviously you can't change the world, but if I can help at least one person change their mindset and their way of thinking, I think that I would feel quite happy with myself.
I love that. I love that. So that leads to why we brought you on today.
Yep.
So for those who are new to the show, basically, My Body Talk Show is all about women empowerment. So we talk about anything that we believe would empower women. So, and we want to talk about your story. And so we met only like last week.
Yep.
And it basically we just clicked, and you just
100%.
And you just told me your story, and it was like you have to. We both said you have to come on.
Come on the podcast.
So, and it's not the usual type of things that we talk about, as in the tone.
Yeah.
Is quite deep.
Yeah.
So guys, be prepared. But thank you so much for sharing.
No,
so
it's a pleasure.
Yeah. So
pleasure.
Take it away, like from wherever you want to start.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
I think because the main thing is like the relationships and where like sort of men lie in terms of your self-esteem and what have you. And I think for me when I was in Colombia, my dad. I'm just gonna start from that point because it all adds into it. My dad was in love with my mum. They decided to have me, but he flew to America to make money.
Yeah.
Obviously, when he was there, he got caught up in the system. Was put into prison for money laundering, other conspiracies, and he was locked up for a while. Whilst back in Colombia, there was a lot of things going on. There was not a civil war, but it was the war on drugs and what have you. Right. So within that, some of my family members not caught up within the actual trade or anything like that, but it was more like caught up in the violence. And I had my uncle who was someone he was my father figure. He was killed, he was murdered. So we had to pick up all our stuff and basically come over to England. So now,
how old were you?
I was about 5 years old. So I was introduced to death, like the narrative of death and what death was at quite a young age.
Yeah.
And it was it was painful. It was something that and no one that age should really be going through, right? Then when we got here, because we didn't really have we didn't have national insurances. We were asylum seekers. We didn't have anything to work with. My uncle and my brother did end up getting into a bit of trouble, where they ended up in prison. So now I've got another main male person in my life in prison, and my brother became a dad figure because he had to take over, for my uncles and stuff.
How much was the age difference?
10 years.
Okay.
But my brother has always been my protector.
You're right.
Yeah, that man has always been my protector. So, having him in and out of prison, and where I didn't have my dad, the person that I did see as my dad was killed. Then we had to run away from Colombia and come to England. my uncle and my brother were both in prison. So this is something that I continuously, like, my relationships with men, I just felt like any time I had someone who was close to me were taken away. And all of those, I think going through all of that is the reason why I ended up in certain situations later on in my life, where it was like I was looking for a father figure, and I was looking for a father figure within toxic men. And even though my brother and my uncles, they weren't toxic men, they led toxic lives. But sometimes you can't make the difference. Like, even though they do bad things, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad people.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So then, later on, when I was 14, now we're going into that bit, but I have to explain exactly where my issue with men came from. And it came from directly the men in my family, where I saw them, that they were a certain way, and I thought that all men had to be that way. And that was the men that I went for. So
as in all men
like be tough, masculine, they weren't allowed to show feelings. They, sometimes things happen, they had to die, like, not had to die, but they can be put in the fronts where that's something that could happen. Do you know what I mean? So when I was 14, now we're going into the deeper part, I had a lot of self-esteem issues, because I think when you grow up without a father, you don't know a type of love where they don't look at you sexually. And even though I had my brothers and my uncle, I never had them around long enough to be able to have that type of unconditional love, or that love that doesn't look at you in a sexual way. So I ended up meeting someone who, at the time I was 14, he was 20. And, sometimes you don't think it's grooming, but it is. It is. And he ended up, I ended up being a victim of rape. And a lot of it, I think, was because I had a low self-esteem. And I was an easy prey. Because there was no real male dominance around. There was no real masculine energy, and I was sort of looking for this love, really wanting this love. But he had tricked me. He had said, "Oh, I forgot something back at the house. Do you want to come back with me?" And then it sort of all went. I won't get into it on here because it's a bit gritty. No, and then what I remember from him and what I took from when after that happened, obviously I was disgusted. I felt disgusted with myself. I didn't know who I was. I felt like I didn't know if I deserved it, if it was something that maybe it was me. And I used to always think to myself, no, it's definitely something to do with me, because why would he do this to me? Why would he do that to me? And I remember him saying to me, he said, "Oh, girls that look like you are always going to get this type of treatment. Don't ever think that you're special." Yeah. So now I grew up with that for a very, very long time. After that happened, I tried to commit suicide. I ended up in a mental unit because it got to a point where I could feel him on my skin, and I couldn't not feel him on my skin. And
can I just ask?
Yeah.
So the incident, obviously you have to go into details, but like at the time it happened, was it you knew it was rape, or it was after you knew it was rape?
No, I knew.
You okay?
I knew.
Okay.
I knew once he locked that door.
Yeah.
I knew.
Okay.
And the thing is, with women, right, we think that sometimes we're strong enough to, sometimes, because I grew up being quite, fighting everyone sort of thing, and you think sometimes you can't, and when a man holds, you down, like, there's no amount of force.
Yeah.
And it was really painful. Like, there was no amount of force, but it was sort of a thing where I had to. Yeah, it was weird. It was a time in my life where I just thought to myself, like, do you know what? It probably happens. I'm probably a bad person. I probably, if all the men in my life have never been around, I'm probably the reason why. I've never been able to have like that connection with anyone. And like I said, where he said that to me, I thought, you know what? Instead of letting it get to me, I'm going to use sex as a tool. I'm going to use it as a tool, and I'm never going to connect with anyone. I'm never going to let anyone have me spiritually. I'm never going to let anyone have my mind or have my heart. I'm never going to love anyone. But I'm going to make sure that when I do this act, I'm going to be I'm gonna give them, you know, something to be like, oh my God, this girl, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I had to find a way to, I wouldn't say empower myself, but I had to find a way to not feel it for what it was. And it took me a lot. I think I got over it at 22.
Wow, that was a long time.
It took me a long time. And then I just went through cases of the same men, meeting the same men and the same person. You know, sometimes it got to the point where I'd be in situations with men and I would say yes because I thought I'd get raped. So it's like you'd sign up for the rape, but I don't know, I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's like I thought if I said no or if I put up a fight, it was going to happen again. So I had to find a way to make it in my mind that it was something that I wanted.
So you're basically trying to almost like brainwash yourself thinking it is not rape.
It's not rape. It is. No, I've consented to this. It's not because I knew that either way. I felt that it would. I felt that it would happen, and it took me a long time to come out of that type of mentality where it was like, no, this is wrong. Do you know what I mean? Then yeah, going through all that, I met my first. Oh, yeah.
So you were about to say that.
My first baby father. So that's my.
So your first
my first. No, he wasn't my. I had a relationship basically. Yeah, like when I was like 15. And he kind of took me out of and he protected me a lot from the guy that did what he did to me because they knew about it. And he was really good to me. Like he wasn't like heavy on me or anything, but I just couldn't connect and love anyone. I couldn't connect and love anyone. Was
he loving?
Yeah, he was, and he was really patient, and he really understood. And even when I tried to commit suicide, he was really upset. I just felt like no one understood. No one really got it. But he was lovely. I can't say anything about William. He was lovely. Yeah. But I just didn't have that perception. I just thought, oh, they're all lovely until you say no. That was what I thought. Then obviously that's the life I was living for a while, and then I had met my first child's dad, Shaylin's dad, and that wasn't anything.
How old were you?
Really serious. I was 18.
Okay.
And I got pregnant. Obviously, I got pregnant. And it was just weird because I had always had this this situation with men, and God decided to give me a son. And it was hard to deal with because at first when I wouldn't say I had like prenatal depression. I don't think it was that. I was so scared of getting close to my son because I thought at some point he'd get taken away from me, like every other man that I've tried to love this way. And it was so weird because it was like, no matter how ugly I was or how ugly the mess I was, my son just loves me.
Of course.
Like, he just loves me. And I never had that. And I thought, oh, this is great. Like, finally I've got the love that I've been searching for my whole life. And I just don't know how to connect. I don't know how to allow myself to, like, bring those walls down and love him. Because if I do, he might go. He might get taken. So, you know, that created a lot of, like, I parented the best way that I could. Always. But it was always like he, you know, if you love him too much, God might, you know what I mean?
Is that you might get that experience again?
Yeah.
So you don't want to. You're sort of almost like protecting yourself from getting hurt again.
100%. Yeah. And I just didn't want that, and I didn't want him to be taken away from me because I had finally got the love I had so desperately wanted from my son. He's amazing, by the way.
How old is he?
He's 13.
Oh,
but Shaylin is really, really amazing. He's a really amazing little kid. And then obviously things didn't really work out with my son's dad. And he wasn't horrible. He was never violent. He was never abused. You know, we were just going through the things that mums and dads go through, just bickering and just. But he was never he was never an awful person. I can't say that he was horrible to me. You do things to each other when you're toxic. I was toxic. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my god, damsel in distress. No, like, but things just didn't work. They weren't going to work for us. And then that leads on to later on, you know, I was still dealing with all of these, you know, I'm 19 now, but I'm still dealing with the rape. I'm still dealing with my dad, you know, not knowing my dad, and my dad being in prison, and my uncle's being murdered, and having to go in and out of prisons with my brother and my uncle, and you know, and even my cousins. Everyone was on road. Everyone was just doing just stupidness, you know what I mean? Everyone was just so, I was all going through that, and I was just a lone soldier. I was a lone woman doing masculine things just on my ones. And just one day I was with my friends, and I come across my daughter's dad. And I remember the first time I see him, I was in love with him from the first moment I saw him. And when we started talking...
How did you meet him?
I met him through a friend.
Okay.
So imagine I went to pick up. And then he was there with he was just there, and he had a tag on and everything. He was in a grey trackie, like proper, you know what I mean, like, yeah, he was you know, he was there, and I just fell in love with him. I just liked the way he looked, I'm not gonna lie, and he was so funny. I just thought he was, this guy, like, he's so charismatic, like, he's so funny. But I was quite quiet and quite laid back type person, but I always looked at him and it was like a curious cat. I just thought like a cute, I was like, oh, well, who's this, like, oh, he's funny, like, who is he? And then when I got to know him, I got to know him a little bit more. He told me about his story. You know, he told me he lost his mum when he was 2 years old. I don't want to go into too much because it's personal stuff, like, but he lost his mum when he was 2, and you know, he never really had like an upbringing where he had a woman's love. And then that's when I thought, oh my god, he's genuinely battling with the same demon that I've been battling with. Do you know what I mean? He's never had the love of a woman, I've never had the love of a man. And at that point I said, I can give him that love, because I know that this is something that I've so badly wanted. I can give this to him. I can do this. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know why I'm smiling? Because I hear this all the time, like, women, or not even just women, just men in general as well, people who've gone through traumas, like they had never had that love, they want to give love, they are so giving, and then when they hear someone that's also is lacking and looking for that love, you're like,
it brightens it.
You want to be like, I'm the one, I want to change them. You know, like, but then this goes down to also like it's beautiful that you want to give love, but also, but I think sometimes we forget that we can give love, but we also need to receive love.
Love as well.
And then we just, it's also that inner work. It's almost, because you give love, it makes you feel good. It's almost like a love language to yourself. Giving love to someone, but it's, I don't know how to lead on to this, but basically, like, you gotta love yourself first. Heal yourself first, and then be able to give that true unconditional love to the other person.
And that's true. It's true. But with him, I've got to say, he was at the stage that I was, where he didn't want to connect with no one, and he was ready to sabotage. So imagine, I thought I had found the person I can now connect. So imagine, all of these years I've gone without connecting. I've gone with never allowing myself to get close to someone. I meet him, we've got similar stories, and now I'm like, forget everything that I knew. I wanna connect with this person. I've been able to connect, but he's got my trauma. But he was in my stage of life that I was in years back, where he felt anything he got close to would disappear. So do you see how I came over, and I came with this energy and this love and this wanting to take him out of this misery in his heart, and he was at the stage I was before that. But I didn't realise it. I just saw it as, you know, sometimes as rejection, and I got with him. You know, I got with him, and at the beginning, like, the relationship was
Can
lovely.
I just also say, you know how you just said, oh, that's how you used to be, not connect, all of that kind of stuff. But I know you said it's somewhat changed, but it's also the fact reason you attracted him is because you still had it in you. It's your energy. You attracted anyone you meet in your life is a reflection of you.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that is true. That is true. And when
So,
you are at that point in life,
even though you said, oh, that at that point now you sort of just like change, he's where he used to be, but at the same time, basically you probably haven't truly healed, and which is why now, back then anyway, you attracted him, and that was the version of reflection of you.
We created that trauma bond, so that you're right, because that would have still have to been there, have been there, for us to make that bond. But I was ready to, you know, be like, no, like, we've got to see things a different way. And like the first 4 years were amazing. Like I can't, and he was amazing with my son. Like my son and his bond were something out of this world. Like you would think that was his actual dad.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? The bond that they had.
Does he have children?
I had a daughter with him, but obviously
but before he didn't have.
No, he didn't have any kids. But I think he always just saw himself as like my son, because he met my son around the age that he had lost his mum.
Right.
So he also wanted, that was his, like, you know, where I didn't have the men in my family and I met him, and then his trauma was like, oh my God, this is little kid, I'm going to make sure that no one ever hurts him, no one ever does nothing to him, and he's got someone here who's always going to protect him. But then he slowly, things started to change, you know, and he started, you know, becoming a bit more vocal in a sense where he was a bit, you know, like violent with his words. Like, oh, you know, we'd argue and he'd, you know, call me a bitch. Yeah. You know, I'd be like, oh, fuck off, or, you know, it started to get aggressive. Yeah. And it got to stages where.
How were you then?
I tried not to be. I just gave him a lot of silent treatment. A lot of the time I'd be like, if you're going to talk to me like that, I'm not going to talk to you. Because I loved him so much, I didn't want to be who I was before with him. Yeah. So, but then it just kept on, you know, it starts little, doesn't it? And then it keeps going and going. Yeah. And it got to a point where not only he was toxic, but I was also toxic. I'm not going to sit here as well. I don't do damsel in distress. I was toxic as well. And then, you know, I think it was one December, one New Year's, he was quite intoxicated. And he you know, he grabbed me quite rough on the train. And one of his boys was like, no, you don't touch women like that. And they got into a big fight. And then he got really upset and saying, oh, look, you're making me fight with my boys. And I was like, you wouldn't have to fight with your boys if you're trying to manhandle me. Like, what's wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? And then he was like, oh, you're a slag. You're probably fucking them. You're probably doing this. And I thought, what? I said, this man's lost his mind. Like, I have been about you since the day I met you. Like, since the day I met you. And... oh, just going before that, he had given me his life story, so that's how I fell for him as well. And he told me he wanted to change his life. You know, I helped him with his CV, you know, and that's when I was like, yeah, like, that's how I got caught up in that more. Yeah. And I've always been about helping people as well. Yeah. So I got caught up in that because I thought, yeah, I'm gonna come in like, you know, the wizard, and I'm gonna change his life, and we're gonna, you know, drive onto the distance.
Which is many women always think like, I'm the one to help.
I'm the
heal.
one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so then like,
let's turn it off.
Yeah. So he things got really violent between us, and
what's the first time like? Like, what did
that
he
was
do?
in the train station. Yeah, he literally grabbed me like that. Yeah. Another time he dragged me out by my hair in my underwear, literally.
At home, obviously.
Outside of his house, yeah, because I made a big fuss about him not wanting to come to the museum with us. Right. And then he just kicked off and just grabbed me by my hair to the point that I'd have to scream out rape, or I'd have to scream something crazy for him to get off me. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And he would do these things like like every time we had a fight, it was hands-on. It was grabbing me by my hair or doing this. And don't get me wrong, like, I was fighting back, and that's why I didn't see it as domestic violence. Right. Because I thought, no, I'm giving it back. So I'm thinking, nah, like, it's both of us. But it's not. Do you understand? And that's why I think a lot of women think, because you step into your masculine and you react in your masculine, that you're you know what I mean? I never hit outright. I never was the one who started it. I was, at my point, I was just defending myself, but sometimes I had to go in because with him, and I always just say it to him, and he used to be, oh, you know, you can't be like that. And I'm like, you only hate it because you're looking at a reflection of yourself. And I said, and you know what? The only way I can deal with you is by becoming you. So even though he was hurting me, I was slowly becoming him.
His energy's contagious.
Yeah, I was becoming him. and you could see it in me. You could, you know, my friends could tell when I was with him and I wasn't with him. And that hurt me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I know like a lot of people might not see that as a big thing, but one of my girls one time at work, I worked with my girl, and she goes to me, "You're back with him." And I said,
"You had on
I said, "How do you know that?" "Yeah, on and off, constant." And she said to me, "Because you look rinsed when you're with him. I can tell you look pale. You don't look like yourself. I know when you're with him, because he just sucks the life out of you." And I'm there thinking, "Oh, this girl's silly," but deep down inside, I knew that was a truth. Yeah. So we was having this on and off relationship for 10 years.
So like, what do you think changed? Why did he change in 4 years? Was he going through something, or?
I think it got to a point, I think, the self-destruction and other girls, you know what I mean, where he didn't want me to find out about other girls. So as soon as I'd be like, "Oh, who's this girl?" he would have to be, to create noise for me to just, you know when you create noise so that people can burrow down.
Yeah.
But I never burrowed down, because I was like, no, who's this girl? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, who's this and who's that? And I was quite a jealous person, but I had a low self-esteem. So, you know, like now, if someone cheated on me, I'll be like, okay, well, that's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
That's clearly a problem with you.
Yeah.
In no way does that reflect
your self-worth, basically.
My self-worth.
Yeah.
But before I used to think, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Oh, maybe I didn't do this. Maybe I didn't cook enough. Or maybe I didn't set myself in a sexy way. Or maybe I've got to do more in the bed. Or maybe, and at times I didn't even want to do things in the bed, because I'm thinking, if he's getting it somewhere else, why would I bother? Why would I bother? He's not even going to like me or look at me in a way like, and I just didn't, do you know what I mean? And he was the one actual person, I got to say, like, Jay was the one actual person, the first person I had ever had intimacy with. Not intimacy in that way, but like sex with, yeah. That I actually felt comfortable with. I actually felt comfortable with him. I never felt comfortable before. I actually felt comfortable with him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? A lot of the times it was just tactics, was just me just being a mess, having that idea in my head that that's all men saw me for, so that's what I was going to be.
Yeah.
But with him, it was different, and that's captivated me, like it kept me there, sort of thing. But yeah, he was quite disorientated anyway. Like, he wasn't where he needed to be in life. He wasn't happy with a lot of things. A lot of things he was trying weren't working.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with a man like that,
yeah,
you're not going to get the best out of him, because he doesn't even know how to bring the best out of himself.
Because he's still looking for himself.
Because he's still looking, exactly, he's soul searching.
Yeah.
And it's quite sad, really, everything that happened in the end with us, because the good sides of him are good, but the bad overweigh. So yeah, it got to a point where we was together. I don't remember what year it was, but I fell pregnant with my first baby with him. And I must have went out with one of my friends that night.
Well, your first baby?
First baby with him, yeah. I lost two. I've lost two with him. Yeah.
Miscarriage?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was pregnant. I was about 7 weeks pregnant. I gone out with one of my friends.
How old were you then?
I think, was it 2016 or 2017? So I must have been about 26, 27.
Okay.
Something like that. And I must have gone out with her, and then he wasn't too fond of my friend at the time. So he must have turned up with him and his friend, and then it just kicked off. Like, he dragged me out of the club. Like, he bit me on my face. Yeah, he grabbed me, he bit me on my face. My girl jumped on his back. We tried running to a shop. The shopkeeper told us to come out because he was just on one. We ended up getting into his friend's car with him because we thought, like, he's going to batter us. But then my friend had an idea. She said, oh, when we get to Nag's Head, this is Holloway, and when we get to Nag's Head, let's jump out the car. And he goes, when I say free, let's jump and run. Obviously, you come out free. She goes, free, we jumped out the car. Yeah. We're running. Remember, these times I'm pregnant.
Yeah. And that's the end of part one. As you can see, it was so deep that even I was tearing up. And I believe probably a lot of you were also tearing up whilst watching that. If you're a victim of domestic violence, or used to be a victim of domestic violence, even rape, I hope you found this helpful. You could resonate with it. And even if you know someone that is a victim of domestic violence and rape, please share this video with them. And yeah, just say on social media, wherever, any platform, and like Anna came on my show, and I'm so grateful. In fact, she chose me, chose My Body Talk Show to share her story. This is the first time she ever shared her story, so I'm so grateful for that. And she just wanted to help women out there who also has been in a position or currently in her position. So yeah, anyway, love you all for watching.